computer. Well, let me get going now. And I'm going to share my screen. Share desktop number 2. And let's get this show on the road. Let's see, here we are. Okay, folks, thank you very much. So when the pandemic started, I wanted to create a presentation, a professional development presentation that would help teachers that are both in the field now and also to teacher interns, to teacher candidates that they're coming into like a brave new world where there's a lot of uncertainty and stuff. I wanted to be able to give you some advice, some suggestions to try and help you navigate your way through it. I know many of you have been going through it already, and I applaud you for your hard work and your efforts. So my name is Ryan Schaff. I'm Associate Professor of Educational Technology at Notre Dame. I also work at Hopkins. Before that, I was a K through 12 technology teacher for many, many years. So it's not just me like sitting in some sort of weird ivory tower. I'm a practitioner first before I, really dive into lots of research and stuff. So I try to do things that are practical for you. So before I begin, I do have to shell something that brand new, just hit the shelves the last day or two, and that is my new book, which is called Literacy is Still Not Enough. Sounds like it's an English language arts book. It's actually more than that. So it talks about how traditional literacies, while still important, reading, math, writing, absolutely still crucial, they're no longer the only real subjects that we have to teach all of our students today. It takes a look at modern learning skills, what we call the modern fluencies, which are the things that our students really need to be able to acquire and become what we call fluent in. Things like problem solving, creativity, communication, research and information, and also just to become global citizens. Those are moral and ethical people that are going to be, respectful leaders in an forever changing world. So anyway, it is on sale now, just released through Corwin and Amazon. You're more than welcome to purchase it. If not, then let's just get the show on the road. Also, if you don't have the funds, I understand. We're going through quite a bit of upheaval right now, and you want something free, you feel free to go to ryanschaff.com. I have a lot of free resources there that you can download. One of my more practical books that I know Kathy has used in the past in some of her courses and workshops, she's used Reinventing Learning for the Always On Generation. You're more than welcome to download some free resources there or even purchase some books. Okay, so the commercial is now over. Let's get down to some business. Okay, so I want to start off by saying during the pandemic, teachers were the glue of society. While the brave doctors and nurses and frontline workers combated the virus, teachers also never abandoned their posts. Despite being scared for themselves and their families, despite many lacking essential tools and training to shift to 100% online learning, despite this so-called new normal, they provided the best instruction they could. Luckily, the digital generations were made for this. The entire situation at home for my wife and I, this is Connor and Ben. So Connor was 12 in this picture and Ben was 6. Our new normal wasn't normal anymore, okay? My children, along with many others, had to abandon the physical school buildings they loved. They were unable to visit friends or extended family. They had to share a home with 2 working adults during a global crisis, and they had to do this with the uncertainty of their continued health and well-being. Our boys were lucky, but many families in the world, they weren't as fortunate. So here's where we stand. As of last year, March, when it really just bloomed up and became its worst. Globally, 1.5 billion students, that's over 87%, had their schools closed. Okay, in the U.S., most of the 55.5 million K through 12 students were sent home not to physically step back into schools again. Individual school systems were left on their own to offer instruction at a distance. Schools were forced to perform a monumental pivot and discovered it wasn't easy to go virtual. Lack of teacher training, the digital divide, lack of accessible tools, lack of instructional or planning time, high teacher anxiety, and mass unemployment created a difficult environment for success. As amazing as teachers are, they felt disconnected from their students and their classrooms. The sound of the open bell, the smiles on their students' faces, and the very aura of that brick and mortar classrooms were replaced by packets or worksheets, connection errors, the ding sound once a student joins your Zoom or Teams or Meets class, the mute icon and the black screens. In the spring, parents and politicians were furious and believed distance and online learning just doesn't work. In truth, what parents and students received wasn't true distance education. It was what I call triaged learning. Look, the system of education hasn't drastically changed in over 125 years. Before the Civil Rights Act, before women could vote, before the first airplane lifted off the ground at Kitty Hawk, the education system as we know it was structured to produce factory workers and individuals working routine cognitive jobs. I'm sorry, but a long-standing and inflexible system such as education will take time to change. Unfortunately, we don't have time to stop and overhaul our outdated education system. As educators, we are here to serve. We have learners that are separated from their friends, dealing with everything being shut down and canceled. They are stuck at home, going through their own trauma. We call it the new normal. Unfortunately, there is nothing normal about it. Physical schools are more than just classrooms and hallways. They are spaces where students would enter and feel like they belonged to a learning community surrounded by their friends and their teachers. In a single academic day, students could read about exciting topics, write imaginative stories, create a model out of clay, produce a video about climate change, sing their little hearts out, and learn about far-off places that existed a long time ago. Online, it is hard to engage and motivate them to even show up. When they show up, it is hard to keep them interested. Many educators feel like they are going into this situation handcuffed. Get ready for the first takeaway from our time together. You have the power and authority to connect with your learners at a distance. You can be the reason they turn on their cameras and unmute their microphones. We are here to explore how you, as educators, can connect with your learners at a distance. Engagement and motivation, these can be characteristics of distance learning. If we challenge our mindsets and look at this situation as a way to transform learning experiences forever. First, I'm going to offer you a big idea that will serve you as guidance throughout these uncertain times. Next, I'm going to share strategies aligned to these big ideas to engage, motivate, and inspire your learners. Okay. And then afterwards, at numerous points, I'm going to turn over our time together to you. You can fill the chat box with your ideas. You can raise your hands to share out loud. You can ask questions, and you can also express your reflections. Okay. First, you are amazing educators. However, you are not Wonder Woman nor Superman. You do not have superhuman powers that allow you to click your fingers and make everything work out. Okay. Before the pandemic, educators had a tough enough job. Now they are being asked to sacrifice their time and well-being to support their students. Grinding through these long months during the pandemic has been taxing. Make sure to take time to unplug and get away from your time as your student's hero. Okay, I know you're going to yell at me for having a workshop online when it's your time, but I promise you, I want you afterwards to relax and decompress. Make sure you take time for yourself. Okay, we have to remember too much screen time isn't good for educators as well as students. Hold yourself to a manageable working schedule in order to live your life. According to a 2018 study, more than 44% of new teachers leave the profession within the first 5 years, citing burnout and a lack of pay and help. The pandemic has only exacerbated the situation. Engage in hobbies and passions to feed your soul. Okay. Partner with others to plan instruction and get help when you need it. You cannot engage or motivate your students when you are on the brink of burnout. The biggest takeaway from today should be that digital is different. Just because you have a synchronous session plan doesn't mean it will progress at the same rate and pace as a face-to-face instructional plan or class. The important content, concepts, and skills can be introduced before you even meet for your synchronous session. The main goal for these sessions is community building, social learning, real-time conversations, collaboration, and real-time feedback. Okay. Some strategies to consider during a synchronous session include creating a schedule for the meeting, like a 5-minute opening greeting and celebration, 5 to 10 minutes of warm-up tasks, 5 to 10 minutes of a micro lecture. Try and keep the lecture short. Remember that they have powerful tools at their disposal. Try and get them to tap into that. 25 minutes of collaboration, discussion, guided and independent practice, and 10 minutes of your closure, your exit messages to students. Share instructional resources before the live session. This way they have a chance to actually access them. Using this strategy allows the session to be more application and hands-on rather than basic and traditional lecture. Okay. Bring other digital tools into the session using such as Google Forms, Docs, Pear Deck, and Padlet to make it more interactive. Okay, if they feel like they're constantly doing other things other than passively listening, they're going to feel connected to you and to your lessons and instruction. And a lot of these things carry over whether you're having online instruction or you're going to a hybrid model. Okay, and I know a lot of you are going into face-to-face classrooms too, but there's going to be a lot of people that are obviously going to leverage more technology. Okay. Please also try not to, and I know, again, you have to deal with edicts and mandates from your county or your school. Do not treat the chat feature as some sort of forbidden fruit. Okay. Model how to use it productively. Praise its proper use and remind learners that you can see everything typed. Okay. So just be upfront about things. And remember, we're trying to build good global citizens that are, we put a little bit of trust. We obviously give them consequences when they break them. Making a human connection is challenging when all you see is a small camera window and hear a digitized voice on the other end. Student engagement is valuable since it is so labored in an online synchronous class. Every class, every Zoom, Teams, or Meet session should involve talking to each student about a topic that is meaningful to them. Do not dismiss this as non-productive. Building relationships should be the top priority. I promise the curriculum will come. Okay, the curriculum takes a back seat to the social emotional learning needs of your students. By providing your students a voice and demonstrating interest in them beyond academics, you can start to develop an authentic connection in person or even at a distance. Some suggestions: conduct interest surveys and polls to uncover what your students like and dislike. Educators can use Google Forms, Microsoft Forms, even the polls feature in Zoom to collect interest data from your students to use in the future. In traditional classrooms, Brophy observed that even if a teacher praises a child once every 5 minutes, the rate of praise for the average student would be once every 2 hours. That just won't cut it. As students enter the classroom, either physical or virtual, after making your greetings, ask them a question and listen to the response. Engage in short micro chats. They'll feel this connection, and even if they're at a distance, you're going to start to make these personal connections with each student. Likewise, as you sign off your synchronous session, don't shut down the meeting all at once. Release students one by one after providing them with a short goodbye, words of encouragement, feedback, or final thought. Encourage your students to use the chat feature again. A discussion or chat room etiquette is essential, but having a back channel or a space during your synchronous session is awesome. Finally, sporadically plan for show and tell events for students to share any cool news, projects they've been working on, or an awesome experience they've had, or even, of course, something they learned with you. Despite the long-standing tradition to do just this, our job as educators is not to mute learners and show them how smart we are. Rather, our job is to empower our learners to become independent thinkers and doers. In an online environment, when educators feel the need to lecture, they should keep it short. What should take up all the time are your students thinking, discussing, and doing. Strategies to encourage less talk and more questioning includes avoid long-form lectures. Instead, create micro lectures, 5 to 10 minutes, short bursts, quick. Prepare a list of questions to ask. Do not try to come up with questions on the fly. You'll find, just like me, it's just like, oh my goodness, I'm not asking the right questions. I really want to dig down deep. Sometimes coming up with a short list, and you don't even have to ask them all. Just coming up with a list of pre-created questions will help you. Use your question and answer sessions to dig deeper into subjects, topics, etc. Encourage students to ask and answer each other's questions in the chat feature. Use Socratic seminars, breakout room discussions, jigsaw activities, or what I call hot potato, where you just keep on going around your virtual room, or of course your hybrid room, and you try and answer questions, or come up with ideas, or shout out answers. At this point, I want to open up your audio channels or chat features and share an idea that you are going to incorporate, a question you have, or a reflection you might want to include. So I'm just going to bring you all over here and see if anybody is interested in sharing. And I know you all have fantastic ideas. Darn it. Hold on 1 second. I can't find my, darn it, stop it. I'm having technical difficulties. Let me just hit the escape button. It'll be easier just to make this work. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I can see you all, and I have a bunch of people in the chat that included all their names. Thank you for the cool background. I try. Perfect visual. Yeah, I try. Are there any things? Yeah, Amanda, the poll feature on Zoom is pretty, it's pretty useful. Just realize it's just for real quick little formative assessments, or just quickly just gauging questions. You just simply go over to, right now you can't see my real features, but I just go and I can click on more, and I can go to, actually right now I'm sharing my screen. I can hit polling and actually set up the questions. Add a question. I'm just adding one real quick. I want to add a question. Okay, edit. I have to hit edit. Oh, it might be popping. Oh, there it is. Okay. I have a lot of screens like popping up a lot of different things. So there we go. This is my poll. You can also make it anonymous if you want to. I'll make it anonymous just to be respectful. Let's see. Good day. I promise I'm not asking anything really hard today, okay? Okay, let me see if I can make this thing work now. Save and launch. This took me about 30 seconds of fumbling through 50 different windows I have open to get it to work, and now I'm receiving information rather quickly. Let me see, I'll show you what I see. Actually, you can't see, it's right behind all that.
Exit ticket idea.
Yep, it's great for an exit ticket. It's quick, it's fast and hurry. Now this is Zoom. All school systems don't use Zoom, but this is something that's quick. If your school system doesn't use Zoom, there's other tools that you can use for surveys. If you're using something like Microsoft Office, Microsoft has forms that you can share easily. There are other tools, and of course, talk to your teacher. They probably have 50 different types of tools they can suggest to you. I'm good to see that most of you had a good day. I'm sorry for the 8 that had a bad day. I apologize that you had a bad day, and hopefully I can end it on a good note. So I'm going to end the poll now, and I can actually get the feedback. If I have other types of data, I asked for you to be anonymous, so this way you can, I can respect your privacy. And in case you also insult me later, I won't take it personally. But you get the data, you get the information right to you, and then you can obviously use it to tailor your instruction to the next class. Okay. Anybody else want to unmute themselves and share any ideas or suggestions that you might have on any of the strategies that you've heard so far?
Hello everybody. So I was listening. I use this application called Class Kicks. I really like it because you can have real time interaction with students right then and there. So
Oh, could you do me a favor and go into you cut out just for a sec. Could you just type in the chat box what the tool was? I'm sorry. I only heard part of it.
I did all right. It's okay. I put it in there, Mr. Ryan. I put it in there first before I share it out.
Thank you. Jennifer wrote that she loves the idea of front-loading instruction, allowing the synchronous time to be much more like doing centered. I like doing centered. It's just active. They are bogged down. It's because we exist even virtually. We're making what's called a worksheet culture where it's busy, busy, busy. Try to focus your time on more higher level thinking. If they create something, it is well worth your time and their time. Have them create something, have them analyze something. And of course, communicating. Of course, it's not their fault. Absolutely is not. It's just, this is a change. This is, not only are we flying this plane, we're building at the same time, but bits and pieces are coming off as we're flying it. So it's pretty scary stuff. Okay, so I'm going to get going. Thank you very much. And I promised more times to share in just a second. So let me hit the play button.
And Ryan, it looks like high school interns are asking for ideas of how to help so students don't ghost.
Aha, I'll get there.
Great, good.
I'm trying to make this more K through 12. It is tough because there's such a wide variety.
Sure.
I do have some things that I think you'll like. Okay, so let me shrink this down here. Actually, let me exit real quick. I see this awesome grid, but it takes up all of the different. There we go. Okay, so share. Okay, we're still sharing. No, we're not sharing. Let's see. I had to hit the play button. Okay, sorry about that. There we go. Okay, so now let's get going. And here again, high school teachers, listen closely because this is really aimed towards anybody, but this is going to be something actionable right away. So as educators, we have to understand that this is the digital generations we are teaching. As our generation was what I call paper and pencil trained, this generation's what I call light and sound trained. Inherently, humans are all visual learners. We process information visually 60,000 times faster than we do text. Images, songs, slideshows, and video clips are excellent resources to share at a distance. Okay, Medina, who's a molecular biologist, and he wrote this great book called Brain Rules, said that people can remember the content of more than 2,500 pictures with at least 90% accuracy, 72 hours after exposure, even though the subjects only sees each picture for about 10 seconds. So let me repeat this. There's a 90% recall of the content of 2,500 images, 72 hours after exposure with only 10%, with only 10 seconds of exposure. Recall rates 1 year later of these same 2,500 pictures is still an impressive 63% of the content of those 2,500 pictures. But the same research says that when new information is presented orally with no image present, for example, if I made this presentation without all its visual elements, 72 hours later, you, the audience, would only be able to recall about 10% of what was presented 72 hours previously. After just 72 hours, students will remember only about 10% of your content of a lecture. Medina says that this is clear evidence that the traditional stand and deliver lecture method is not effective. However, and this is very significant, the percentage of information retained goes up from 10% up to 65% if an image is added to the new content. Let me explain what's happening here. Since childhood, the digital generations have been continuously bombarded by television, videos, computer games that put colorful, high quality, highly expressive, and realistic graphics and sounds in front of students with little or no accompanying text. As a result, the digital generations, images and videos are powerful enough on their own to communicate the message to and for them. And for the younger generations, the role of words increasingly is merely to complement the images. The result of this pervasive and chronic, what I call digital bombardment, has been to considerably sharpen the digital generation's visual abilities. The digital generations are what I call very visually literate. Generations so bathed in bits that they think it's a natural part of their digital landscape. They're completely comfortable seeing and conveying information in visual formats. Meanwhile, many people from the older generations continue to struggle to understand this because that's just not the world we came from, okay? That's because most of the people in the space, again, are paper trained growing up. We learned from books. We were trained to communicate primarily with words. Learning was linear, logical, left to right, top to bottom, beginning to end. Conversely, the digital generations are what I called light and sound trained, okay, which is a completely different cognitive process than the older generations use. So what implications does this hold for education and for educators? The younger generations are growing up in the YouTube era. They're completely immersed in a world of full motion video that they watch for entertainment and to learn from. They also create and share their very own videos. In less than a generation, this has allowed students to move from simply being consumers of media to being what I call prosumers, who simultaneously consume and produce their own content and information. Okay. Amongst the younger generations, visual communication is increasingly challenging the supremacy of traditional reading. Although traditional reading and writing aren't going away anytime soon, the digital generations are more likely to express their ideas using simulation or video as they would be writing an expository essay. Okay, so here are some strategies that work. Okay, share previewed video clips with the students. Okay, obviously you want to watch them, make sure that they're safe. But what's going to happen is you're going to prime them with information. You're going to help them. If you give them a 3 to 4 minute clip that they can watch on their own, you're going to provide and you're going to help activate prior knowledge. This is going to be extremely helpful. And again, for the higher grades, sorry, I'm at home with 2 dogs. It's going to be extremely valuable because they're primed for this. They watch video to learn from. Okay. My parents or my father taught me how to change a tire. Guess what? My son, he didn't learn how to change a tire by listening to me. He watched a YouTube video. Okay. This is how they're learning. This type of just-in-time learning is what they're experiencing on a constant basis. Okay. So share these previewed video clips with your students. Okay. It'll prime them for any subject that you throw at them. Of course, you can also record narration for books, instructional directions, or feedback so they can go back to it and they can listen instead of asking, what do I do? I don't get it. This, that, blah, blah, blah. You can record something and they can listen to it over and over until they understand. Add images to instructional resources to draw the eye. Make sure they are high resolution images because they are very critical when it comes to the visual information that they ingest. Okay, they're not going to like a pixelated picture or a picture that's from the 1970s, which is, unclear and faded. They want something that's clear, crisp, and filled with that type of visual input. Monitor your color use, the font size, the amount of text on resources you share. Okay, if it's an eyesore, they're just not going to pay attention to it. Use images to introduce new topics, subjects, or ideas. Use video segments to introduce or reinforce new ideas. As much as we hate YouTube sometimes, it is absolutely a wonderful place to find really good content. I'm not saying you're not going to find like the dumb cat videos that we seriously kind of like, but for all the garbage that's on it, there's a lot of useful resources. Okay, there's also other ones that you can just find that don't involve YouTube. So please consider using video content with your students. But also, not only do we want them to consume the information, we also encourage learners to record, edit, and publish their own videos. Okay, a lot of times they can share the information, but they may be nervous to do it in real time. Have them share it on a video. You'll find that they are oftentimes filled with a lot of conviction and a lot of power in their voice. It's almost a different type of presence. Okay. What happens when students own their learning? They become problem solvers. They develop growth mindsets. They learn to experiment and tinker. They develop creativity. They practice divergent thinking. They cultivate geeky interests. They chase their passions. When a student gets to make a choice, they have a voice in their learning. After they leave your classroom, they will remember the freedom and value you placed in them. They will develop into what I call lifelong learners. And they're not going to remember that bubbled quiz that you gave them on a Friday afternoon. No, I'm just kidding. You're not going to be that cruel to them. They will remember that you gave them a valuable choice and you gave them access to make decisions in your classroom. Here's a quick takeaway, and that is strategy that work is choice boards. This was extremely popular when students had to learn at a distance. They had to learn at home, and there's like, oh, well, I don't have access to that, but I have access to this, this, and this. Choice boards allowed students to make their own choices. They could choose what activity they would use to kind of get from point A to point B in their learning, okay? It gave them a lot of power to choose how to learn a particular subject or a concept. This freedom encourages them to be more responsible, accountable, and independent in their learning. It also allows them to work on the activities at their own pace. The boards are useful for teachers as it enables them to identify and use student interests and preferences to stimulate active learning and student engagement. The nice thing is these are extremely easy to share with your colleagues. So it's not about the power of me, it's about the power of we. So please consider, if you make a choice board, on science or something like that, that there's 2 or 3 in your cohort that are teaching science, share, because it could again, materials and resources, we all borrow them. It's very helpful. Choice boards are great. And if you are nervous about creating your first one, go online and find the 5 million other choice boards there are. You don't have to go to Teacher Pay Teacher. You can always look online for something free. Don't break up with breakout rooms, okay? Zoom meets and even Teams. I know Teams is kind of really putting into a lot of breakout rooms. We're getting ready to see a little bit more. In fact, there's another release, I think, in Teams coming out soon too. And Meets allows video session moderators to break students up into small teams. Many school systems are worked up about adults needing to monitor these small groups as they work. I frame their concerns in this light. Can you hear every conversation spoken in your classroom at the same time? No, you can't. Breakout rooms allow educators the ability for students to work collaboratively online in their own small meeting places. Educators can even join the breakout rooms to check in with each team, monitor progress, and of course, safeguard their students. Breakout rooms can be used for think, pair, share sessions, warm-up discussions, exit discussions, peer review sessions, virtual games, virtual workstations where each group is doing something different until they switch tasks. So there's a lot of ways to use the breakout rooms other than just breaking them up and having kids do something busy, or breaking up and just meeting with 1 or 2 people while the other 15 people are kind of like figuring out what's going on. There's a lot of ways that you can structure it to be as productive as possible with your students. Try to diversify your teacher toolkit. Students, okay, listen to what they say. Write a paragraph to explain why the United States fought the Civil War, okay? The write a paragraph directive is up there with pop quiz in popularity, okay? Write a paragraph, repeat after me, complete problems 1 through 4. If students complete these tasks, then they have demonstrated they can follow procedural directions, not newly acquired knowledge. Educators must diversify their teacher toolkit and stay out of that, what I call the assignment rut. Sorry, my mom just turned on, I guess, the bath upstairs, and it sounds really loud. So I apologize about the noise. So here are close to 100 ways students can express their learning. Many can be still performed during distance and hybrid learning. You could ask students to create advertisements, comic strips, comedies, commercials, graphs, escape rooms, interviews, murals, sketch notes, You can get them to do plays virtually, podcasting. You can get them to record a podcast for free and even host it online if you wanted to. If you don't want to host them online because you're worried about privacy, you can always have them just record an audio file. If you want a tool, free tool to record it, just let me know. You can do word walls, even digitally. You can create it on a PowerPoint. So there's a lot. There's over 100 ideas right here, and I'll share it with you after our presentation today. This is over 100. Try and change the feedback into what I call feed forward. As incredible as educators are, they cannot always provide timely, precise, and constructive feedback to their students. With class sizes of over 20, 25, or even 30 students, it's challenging to stop the world, lock eyes with a student, and have a one-on-one conversation about their performance, feelings, and ideas. This has to stop. At a distance, it is absolutely possible to give effective feedback to each student. Okay. During online meetings, strategically plan times to share with everyone the strengths and good performances of each student. Instruct students in the nuances of providing constructive feedback. So this way, they can also do what is called peer feedback. Provide students with the ability to work together, evaluate work, and provide and accept feedback in a positive manner. As learners improve in this exercise, they can begin to evaluate their own work. Send random emails and messages to students letting them know how they are doing. You can also CC their parents. Try and do the good note home is always a positive. Instead of text-based feedback, you can use audio and video commenting to send students personalized messages on their progress. Many learning management systems provide these features. If not, you can use a tool like I mentioned for podcasting. You can use a tool, it's called Vocaroo, Vocaroo. Here, I'll even click it into the chat box and I'll type the actual name of it. Vocaroo. It is free. It does not require, oh, I'm sorry. I sent that as a direct message. So don't think I was being creepy. Sorry. Everyone, here it is. Vocaroo. There, that's a free audio. You go on, you can, as long as you have a microphone, you can record it and it saves it as an MP3 file. You can share that file. It's basically a podcast. As soon as you email it or message it or somebody listens to it, technically it's a podcast. Okay. You can provide this also you can provide this also to send to, again, not only doing this, but podcasting, but also send the feedback. If you want to have your little writer's workshop and you want to do something other than just type away different, ideas, you can obviously just share a different one. You can also share it just through a video. I'm sorry, through an audio clip. You can play review games on sites that provide instant feedback, such as Kahoot, Socrative, Acadly, Quillette, or even Seesaw. Again, you'll get this resource afterwards. So if you need to look up some of these tools, you can. This is slide almost 50. Okay, so we're getting towards the 2/3 of the way through. Okay, at this point, open up your audio channels or chat feature and share an idea you are going to incorporate, a question you have, or a reflection you might stop. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the sharing. I'm going to end my show just for a second, and let me go ahead and put everybody up there. Let's see. Let me change the view to gallery. And anybody wish to do the unmute themselves and share? If not, I'll go right to chat boxes. It's fine with me. Okay, while you're warming up. Okay.
Do you just mean share an idea that
Yep.
we got from just kind of?
Yep, idea that maybe you want to try, reflection that you have, a question you still have. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. I was going to say, so I teach 4th grade and my students for their writing project are researching an animal. And I had like 6 students finished pretty early, so I gave them a chance to make their own Google Slides to present the information that they found. And the 6 of them were so excited to find their own videos and pictures of the animal they research and create their own Google slide that they get to present to the class tomorrow. And it's the most enthusiasm and the hardest I've seen them work. And it was because they got to create their own Google Slides.
They owned it because they got to decide what animal they wanted to select, and they will write up. And Allie, this is what I did when I was a 4th grade technology teacher. And it can be high tech, low tech, no tech, really. It's really up to how you end up doing it. I did a high tech to where I took small little 30-second video clips of the animals that they were studying. And again, if you don't feel like extracting the audio, you can always just have them turn the volume down. What I had them do is they basically would write a script as if they were like National Geographic narrators, talking about the penguins or the sharks or the whales or whatever they wanted to write with. I would give them a writing grade for the scripts that they would create and all the information that they would research. But let me tell you how awesome it was when I got to record them actually providing these like 30 seconds little National Geographic thing. And again, it could be high tech, low tech, no tech. You don't have to record it if you can't. Again, you have that artifact that you can grade. But Allie, I compliment you on letting them pick the what subjects to look up and what animals to study. So yeah, please. Thank you very much for sharing. Anybody else? So Melanie said she likes the idea of feed forward. Yes, anytime you give feedback, it always has to be what I call feed forward, okay? It should be a lot more positive, more constructive. It shouldn't be punitive. And it also should be very actionable, like it's steps that it's not just, oh, good job. Listen, I like to hear good job, but I also like to hear what was such a good job. What did you like so much about what I did? That's what they're going to want to listen to. Jill mentioned Flipgrid has been really successful. I love Flipgrid. It's great because it's asynchronous video discussions, and it's great because it's free. And they're saying that, and it's actually created by it's owned by Microsoft now, but they say that it's always going to be free. Flipgrid's great. It creates video conversations, but it's not just about you saying it to your students and then it's done. It's the students then get to have these conversations, and you're connected to everything. You get to choose if they're going to have that follow-up discussion, if they're going to have that conversation or not. Yep. And there's a lot of tools, and people are sharing a lot of tools in the chat box. A lot of these tools are great. Go Formative, I've seen things. Kami, excellent. A lot of these are great tools to consider and using. Liesel, I think, asked how have I used Vocaroo. I used it to create podcasts I used it at a K-5 STEM camp, and we created claymation. And Vocaroo is a quick little tool to where I had them record their own narration. Again, you can use it as long as you can download a clip and send it to them. It's quick. And the nice thing is audio files are much smaller than video files. So they're much more portable. And pretty much every computer has an MP3 player that they can listen to. So it makes it very accessible. Amaria, Amira.
Yeah, Amira.
Okay. Amira, I'm sorry, Amira. I didn't mean to butcher your name. I apologize. Audio clips with feedback. They're going to love hearing your voice, especially since it's personalized to them. I guarantee it's going to make a powerful connection. Yep, if you have Canvas, you can put videos into your grades. And the nice thing is we just got Brightspace at Notre Dame. It actually allows video and audio near feedback. So a lot more people are starting to use it. So a lot of great tools being shared. And make sure that you're writing some of these down. There's great tools and resources. If you need something else afterwards, I'm happy to help you out. All right, so let me keep on pushing on here because we're starting to get a little bit low on time. And I want to make sure I get through at least another section here. So thank you for sharing, everybody that did. Let me continue. So let me close this down here. Oh, no. Okay. And let me put this over here. I want to just... Okay, here we go. I'm gonna get playing now. But I have to share the screen. I'm not sharing the screen. Here we are. Okay. Let me hit the share screen. Share. And let me hit the play button. Okay. Getting there, getting there. Okay. So meetings online increases our cognitive load because several of its features take up a lot of conscious capacity, okay? Try to avoid what I call, and it's actually a documented issue, is called Zoom fatigue. Our feelings and attitudes are largely conveyed by nonverbal signals such as facial expressions, the tone and pitch of our voices, gestures, posture, and the distance between the communicators. However, a typical video call impairs these ingrained abilities and requires sustained and intense focus and attention. Multi-person screens magnify this exhausting problem. Gallery view, where all meeting participants appear, like Brady Bunch style, challenges the brain's central vision, forcing it to decode so many people at once that no one comes through meaningfully, not even the speaker. To avoid and combat what's called Zoom fatigue for both educators and students, try to avoid multitasking. You see how cluttered I am sometimes. I'm going between what I have probably 10 active windows right now, and I closed down all of my subsystems that I'm not using right now. But right now, I had a poll that I used that I didn't delete yet. I had, Zoom is running in the background. I'm using Keynote. I have another screen so I could see it because I have terrible eyesight. So my suggestion is try and avoid multitasking, okay? People aren't very good at multitasking, okay? We're very good at single tasking. We're very good at it. When we multitask, it's almost like taking several stiff drinks. We might think we're doing great, but we're really not, okay? Try and provide what I call brain breaks. And it doesn't mean that you have to take a break like every 10 minutes. It means change and alter whatever you're doing, okay? So if you're giving a micro lecture, do it really quickly and then move on to another task and move on to something else and something else and something else. So this way you're changing up, and it's not just, you're just sitting there listening to us talking head on a screen. Okay, so, and also try and break the sessions up, and again, into those small little diverse learning events, okay? Lesson plans are really events broken up into like almost a progression. Try and manage how you kind of break them up. Okay, create a housekeeping slide. So this is going to help you, and this is one of those things, and again, high school teachers, they like these access, they like to provide resources that are both helpful for virtual learning, hybrid learning, or even just face-to-face. It gets into good practice, okay? And that's creating what I call a housekeeping slide, which really kind of goes into the rest of the teaching and instruction. It's really helpful to create a housekeeping slide to share important information as students enter and leave the virtual or real world classroom, okay? This is a free template, and I'll give you access to it in just a moment. It's the next slide, I promise. Again, one of those great takeaways I'm trying to provide you. And that is that you can take this type of template and give a lot of good information, but you can go through a process, okay? You can provide the objective for the day, a wonderful inspirational quote. Okay, there's one of from Maya Angelou. You can do attendance really quickly. You can share the morning video or something like that. I know it sounds cheesy. It looks like a cheesy elementary, and I'm not calling elementary teachers cheesy, by the way. I was an elementary teacher for many years. But you can include a morning, good morning video, or just like an introductory video to something to access information. You can include to-do lists, and there's a lot of other things. You can then put content on here if you want to include the warm-up, if you want to do an activity, directions. The nice thing is if there's a student that is absent, or their internet connection gets wonky and they're lost, you can always just send it to them afterwards, and they have lost nothing. They're with you. Here's the site. It's called slidesmania.com/education. They have 70, 80, 100 different templates that you can use. Some of them are elementary based, middle school based, high school based. You just go through them. And if you don't like this type of almost classroom, almost procedural type of template, there's other ones for units. If you want to build a web quest, if you want to do something that is unit based, they even have an awesome Black History Month one right now that you can obviously go into. Now listen, the content's not there. It's a template. It helps you organize all your great thoughts. But again, once you use something powerful and you like it, you can obviously share it. And again, it's all about that pulling each other's knowledge, pulling our resources together to make it useful. And again, this will be provided to you. If you, and again, Slides Mania. So there is a S in there. It's free. I download it. You'll be up and running. You download the template, and it's not only PowerPoint, but it's also Google Slides. So it gives you different options. So if you're a Google Classroom school, you can obviously bring those in. Okay. So the housekeeping slide, again, I kind of went over some of the big ideas that you could have there. You can have your objectives. You can have an engaging video to get you started, a to-do list, a homework, a quote, even world news if you wanted to. We have to understand is that the digital generations are frequently criticized, derided, misunderstood, misrepresented, and even disrespected in media. They're often accused of being intellectual slackers and antisocial beings who lack even basic social skills. The research says that, on the contrary, for the vast majority, the digital world is a far from an isolating antisocial experience. Outside of schools, they're constantly immersed in what I call collaborative culture based on building relationships that allows them to interact not only with their classmates, but also with people who aren't geographically close. In fact, they are highly social generation. Here's the difference. They're just not social the way that we thought of them as. The problem is that what they expect and constantly experience in their world outside of school with their games and texting and websites is often completely at odds with what they experience in the traditional classroom. So after they have spent hundreds of hours of their lives playing games and exploring virtual environments, they come to school where almost everything is controlled by adults, okay? And they're compelled to sit in classrooms or Zoom sessions where things are hierarchical and unidirectional. They control nothing. For them, school is all about being passive observers and learning endless deferred gratification. I can absolutely guarantee you that it will not be possible much longer to engage young people in an educational system where the quality of experiences the school provides aren't as relevant and engaging as the quality of the experiences they get outside of school. You're not going to like what I'm going to say, but for education to survive, education and learning needs to become as engaging and fun as a video or a video game. The traditional classroom is not enough for them. Our challenge is to keep up with them. That's because the digital generations will never accept the traditional stand and deliver educational model. They need to be in a situation where they're controlling things, and that can never happen in a traditional school environment. Okay. Question: why in the world am I learning what you're teaching me? And what possible connection does this have to me and my world? This question should be answered every time you have a lesson, okay? To be an effective 21st century teacher, we must first possess the very same 21st century skills that our students are expected to have. And in addition to those skills, we must be able to help all of our students obtain and develop 21st century skills. Look, I've spent many years in the classroom. Anybody who knows anything about anything knows that the secret to success in the classroom has very little to do with being a good disciplinarian or classroom manager, and everything to do with creating an engaging methodology that compels students to want to be there. It's not about making students learn, it's about getting them to want to learn. Without motivation, there will be no learning. Ask yourself this question: would students be in your classroom if they didn't have to be there? Education in the 21st century needs to be about full body learning. The killer app of the 21st century, the best one-to-one device for the 21st century, is a good teacher. A teacher with a love of learning, an appreciation of the aesthetic, the esoteric, the ethical, the moral. A teacher who understands and appreciates Bloom and Gardner and Fieri and Piaget and Papert, who knows how different kids learn at different times and at different rates. Today's learners are not the same learners that schools were originally designed for. And today's learners are certainly not the learners that many of today's educators were trained to teach. Beyond this, it's crazy to think that over 2 decades into the 21st century, we're still trying to figure out what exactly is 21st century learning. Education continues to operate on assumptions about teaching, learning, and assessment that are targeted at students from another age that has passed us by. The world has changed in the past 20 years. Heck, it's changed in the past 12 months. So in the same way that we have every right to expect the digital generations to respect, understand, and engage with our world and our values, we absolutely also need to take the time and effort to respect, understand, and engage with their world and their views. Just because we were here first doesn't mean we can ignore their world. It doesn't mean that our ways are better. And believe me, we ignore their world at our peril. What we desperately need is to find balance, okay, between our world and theirs, between the traditional and the digital worlds, okay? There's nothing stopping us from changing the way we learn and how we teach, okay? Change is hard, but our kids are worth it. So that is going to end my session. I'm sorry I went about 2 minutes over. I apologize. I tried to really value your time, but I really wanted to take the moment and opportunity to thank you. Are there any questions? I can keep this running a little bit longer if you'd like. Um, Kathy, anything that you want to add or suggest or do? I do promise to give you my resource in just probably by tomorrow.
Ryan, I think that just a couple things I was thinking as you were talking, that first of all, everybody's, that some of our interns are very already experienced with some of these applications and programs and things that you're mentioning, and that's really, really great. But it's nice to see how excited everyone is about trying another thing and adding another thing to their toolkit. But I think, Ryan, for me, what impresses me when you talk is the balance that you have between all these practical strategies that if we had time to look at them, we could incorporate it into our lessons tomorrow or the next day. And balancing that, though, those philosophical questions about what's really great for kids today in terms of how they learn and how teachers and relationships are always going to have a predominant role, but how we can help them become lifelong learners and critical thinkers, and hopefully they can make a better job of the world than we did. But I really appreciate all the things that you said. I wish I had more time to figure out how to use all this stuff, but very, very helpful, I think, certainly from us, and we're grateful that you spent your time with us this evening, especially with all the stuff going on with your family.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I allotted some time. If there's anybody that has any questions, while you're thinking about any questions, let me just put this up here, is that if you're interested in a lot of the ideas and the strategies and you want some takeaways, I'm trying not to sell books. I'm trying to give you ideas. If you go to ryanschaff.com, it has a lot of free resources. I can put the link in the chat box for you. Again, if you don't have the money to pay for it, no big deal. I'm happy to provide you with the link. So this way, if you want to sign up for a newsletter, I give a lot of free things away. I'm happy to do that in the chat box. So, and if you're interested in any books, there's a lot of things there also to consider. So here, I'll put the link up there. And as I promised before, I'll also send around the slide deck with the different tools and resources written in. So this way you can take out the tools that you really like and consider it. Anyway, I'll stop sharing. And again, I'm open to any questions you might have.
I don't have a question, just more of a comment. First of all, a great presentation. I really enjoyed it. What you were saying at the end really resonated with me. I have 2 younger siblings that during quarantine really got into like TikTok. And sometimes I'll watch them go through TikTok and they just scroll and scroll and scroll. If they don't if their focus isn't captured in like those first 2 seconds, they like flip the video. They'll move on to the next clip, and they're so used to receiving so much stimuli on their phones and like through different applications. It's really amazing to watch, but it's also scary. Like and it makes me think, if you don't grab students' attention in that warm-up activity, they're gone. They're on their phones. They're like, they zone out. And yeah, that's what that made me think of.
You are, Amira, you are right. They can go out. I also remember, just like I mentioned, you really do have to help them find a balance too, because that input is very rich to the brain. They love that input. It's really brain candy to them. In fact, in some ways, it can be as addictive as heroin. It really can. But we have to understand that with anything, it can become an addiction. It really can. Any behavior can become a compulsion, a condition. The main thing that I can take away is, yes, they're going to use their devices. There's a lot of different ways and various ways to do that, to use their devices, but also get them to do things outside of using the digital, just the digital landscape. And you're hearing, an educational technology professor say they need to step away from the computer sometimes and their phones. They need to experience real life too, but they also need to kind of self-check themselves. That's why I'm not a big proponent of always having kids on Zoom for 6 hours a day. I understand you have mandates and stuff, and I'm not asking you to fight a system and get into trouble. But what I'm saying is that we have to pick smart. We have to understand what the main purpose is of our time together with our students, and that is to make social connections. Any other questions, comments, reflections? Scott, you raised your hand, sir.
Yes, sir. I had a question, just very astute observation by Amira with the TikTok thing. But I just want to clarify my comment. I think that's almost a detriment to retention. When there's so much being flooded at you, you ask your kids what they just saw, they have no idea what they just saw like 5 minutes ago. So maybe to capture their attention, but then bring them back to a central focus and, make sure that you're hitting those main points.
Scott,
Just
you
my
made
thoughts.
it. Yeah, no, and your valuable thoughts. It's called infowhelm. There's so much information. It's like trying to drink out of a fire hydrant. It's just too much information. And again, I'm not trying to shill a book here, but Literacy Still Not Enough talks about that. It's called information fluency, where what you do is there's plenty of information out there, but you have to vet good information, bad information from good information. This is the way they use it. And sometimes just too much information it's too much. So it's a mental process in which they can actually vet through all that, through all the noise, and find what's useful for them and what's meaningful. But yeah, I do understand the whole passive just consumption of information, just going through it like almost like a goldfish. It is scary, but they have to learn that they can use the information that they're seeing online, and also they can vet it, because we're talking a lot about fake news and slant and bias now in the media. That's absolutely essential that they become critical thinkers, and they become critical like prosumers. So that's really what it's about. So because they have to come up with their own truth. And I could almost I do a big presentation where I introduced a situation that happened in the 1950s when television was starting to come, about spaghetti trees. And what happens is you end up finding out that it was an April Fool's Day joke. Well, the problem is people were calling stores to find out how they could buy a spaghetti tree. So that's the type of information that's scary. But however, they have to understand that there is a process that you can go through to kind of vet that good and bad information. Yep. But thank you, Scott. That's a good point. And again, you let me do another commercial for my book. So
We thank everyone for your attention. We do welcome your feedback, ideas. Within the hour, you will get a Google document to give any feedback, and we'll use that as your documentation of your attendance tonight. Thank you for your attention, and thank you, Ryan.
thank you very much. Marge, if you want to reach out to me, I will put my email address before we hang up, and you can ask me offline I do want to respect everybody's time that they were that they spent their extra time after teaching. But here's my email address. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm also on Twitter at Ryan.
Mine was just a quick question. Is it possible to have a follow-up to this? Because this is so relevant, not just right now, but, obviously, as you mentioned, in the future. I would love to have some sort of follow-up to this.
You'll have to talk to Kathy and Jean Marie. I'm always willing to come back. It's I would have to create an entire other one because I don't want to be stale. But you can talk to them, and I'd be more than willing to do it sometime like in later spring. Be happy to. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that would be a great class.
Wow, I'm being asked to come back, so I guess I didn't stink
I
out
know.
the
See that? Look at
Popular.
the chat there.
Or even being asked to teach another class, it'll be an overload.
Oh my
But education is never going to go back to what it was. It's always going to be now something different and evolving. So I think the more expertise we have in, merging face-to-face and virtual education, the better off we're all going to be. So
Absolutely.
you're not going to be, you'll be busy for a long time.
Yeah, and Marge asked if I teach this as a class. Yes, Marge, I do teach this as a class. I teach this as look up digital leadership. I'm doing a certification in it. So yes, there's teaching the digital generations. There's going to be this book was just released, so I don't have a course on it yet, so I'll build it. But it's a lot of it's on the digital fluency, the media fluencies. Yep. Certification. Lauren said the part of the certification program. Well, you're going to really have to talk to Dean on that one. But Scott said through NDMU, yes. If you look up their post-box certificate programs, they're online. Yes, if you look it up. Lauren Down says as a class. Well, let me see. I am trying to develop an online teaching and design course. I don't have time. It's really tough with accreditation. It's tough, but I am in development. I've actually started to write out the course plan for it. So look for it in about another year. Sorry, I can't work faster. I wish I had a clone. But thank you. I mean, and again, follow me, ask questions. I did put my email in there and Twitter if you're interested in tweeting me, or just reach out or even ask Kathy or Jean Marie, and they'll get you in contact with me. I'll be happy to help you out.
And check out his books. There's another one that I've used in one of my classes is Game On. Is another one of the books that Ryan has, and each of them gives a different perspective on how technology has really changed education and should impact on how we teach. So I think they're ones that have been, I think, very helpful.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, I'm gonna go up and play cards with my mom. So
thank you,
nice thing about
Brian.
being
Real
home.
thanks for your and your info.
Yep. Thank you very much, everybody. Please stay safe and good luck. And if you need anything, please just reach out to me. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for all the good questions.